If you're like me, then you cringe when you hear that your favorite horror movie is being remade. Because more often than not, it turns out that the remake is awful. But there are a few horror movie remakes that are actually pretty good. And so today on Horror Boost, we're counting down the top 10 best horror movie remakes. Now let's get started. Coming in at number 10, we have Cat People from 1982. This is a remake of a 1940s classic, and it stars Natasha Kinski and Malcolm McDowell. And why is it awesome? Well, apart from the awesome song by David Bowie, it's just a really cool movie about horny people who turn into cats. Nuff said, right? And at number 9, we have Village of the Damned from John Carpenter. This 1995 remake of a 1960s classic is actually pretty creepy. With great performances from Kirstie Alley, this movie's definitely worth a watch. There's one particularly gruesome scene that sticks out in my mind involving a boiling pot of water. For those of you who have seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And at number 8, we have Evil Dead from 2013. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's sacrilege to say that any movie other than the original Evil Dead trilogy could actually be good. Well, hear me out. The remake from 2013 is pretty good considering what it had to stack up to. Now, I'm definitely not saying that it's better than the original Evil Dead films. However, the gore effects are pretty awesome, and the climax at the very end is incredible, with the protagonist getting herself her new tool for her arm. And at number 7, we have The Hills Have Eyes. And I must say, I wasn't a huge fan of the original film, but the remake sure is awesome. I really like the unique plot point about the Nevada test sites sort of creating these weird mutant people in the Nevada desert. I've been to the Atomic Bomb Museum in Nevada, and every time I visit there, I always think about this movie. Now, it is much gorier than the original film, so if you're not into that, I would steer clear from this version. Otherwise, it's definitely worth a watch. And at number 6, we have Dawn of the Dead from 2004. Now, I love the original Dawn of the Dead from 1978, but I also like this version a lot too, and here's why. It's much more fast paced, and while I'm not a huge fan of the zombie genre in general, I do think that it stacks up pretty well. The gore in this movie is pretty brutal, and there's one scene in particular involving a chainsaw on the bus. For those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for movies that take place in shopping malls. And at number 5, we have The Blob from 1988. And despite the cheesy 80s horror effects in this movie, it's actually a lot of fun. It has a sly, wicked sense of humor, and be sure to grab a bowl of Jell-O when you watch this movie. Up next at number 4, we have The Body Snatchers from 1993. And why do I like this version? Well, Abel Ferrara is a great director. He really sets a creepy tone for this town that sits on a military base, and if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It has Scream Queens Christina Leese and Meg Tilly, so definitely check that out. And at number 3, we have House on Haunted Hill from 1999. I love this movie. I've loved it since I was a kid and I saw it in the theater when I was 8 years old. Jeffrey Rush, who plays the Vincent Price character and runs this creepy house party for these guests, is absolutely superb. It also stars Scream Queen Ali Larter from the Final Destination series, so if you haven't seen House on Haunted Hill, I highly recommend it. It was one of 2 main haunted house movies from 1999, the other being The Haunting, and let me tell you, House on Haunted Hill is way, way better, so definitely check it out. And at number 2, we have It from 2017. And growing up, I was terrified of Tim Curry as Pennywise, and I thought that he could never be replaced as that character. Well, sure enough, Bill Skarsgård does a pretty good job as Pennywise. I also love the great special effects. Normally, I don't like CGI in movies too much, but in this movie, it's done very, very well. And I'm sure most of you have seen it by this point, so let me know what you think in the comments. Did this remake stack up, or did it not live up to the original? And my number one horror movie remake is The Fly from 1986. This is a remake of a cheesy Vincent Price film from the 50s, and this version is a lot more serious than that. David Cronenberg directed this awesome little thriller involving these really weird looking telepods that almost look like big bug zappers. And Jeff Goldblum's performance is out of this world. Gina Davis and John Getz are also very good in this movie. And it's kind of unusual in that it's a horror movie that only really has 3 people in it. It's just a love triangle. It's almost more of a romance than a horror movie. But it's pretty gruesome and has some pretty scary scenes in it, so definitely check that out. Let me know what you thought of my list. Did you agree with me, or was I completely off base with what I said? Let me know in the comments below, and also let me know what you would like to see next.